right.
All right. So I need someone to approve the minutes of
Motion
March,
to approve the minutes?
Second.
of March 10th, 2021. Do I have anyone? Anyone?
You just did it.
All right. I guess, yeah. What do we have to do? We have to vote? We accept it? We're good?
Good.
Good. All right. Then community focus, staff and board discussion on what happened in our community as it relates to youth and families. Go ahead, Sarah.
So again, just checking in to see if anything's happening. On our end, we've noticed a significant increase in mental health needs. I feel like it's continued to get more and more severe, people's needs. I mean, so many youth on our wait list right now. We've just gotten slammed. I think even this month compared to last month even. I do think there's something about the vaccines here. The weather's getting nice. There's an end in sight, but things aren't quite back to normal. And I think that's been really impactful for people. And also school going back full time, a lot of anxiety around that, just a lot of depression and anxiety is what we're seeing the most. And a few other like pretty significant mental health needs. What'd you say, Kevin?
What are the numbers, like the jump? What's your wait list?
So we have about 15 on our wait list right now.
Okay.
And that was actually after, I was gonna get to this later, but I can just talk about it now. We hired one part-time person, Nicole Chester. I'm hoping actually, and then we just made an offer to another one. I'm hoping that our 2 part-time people can come to a meeting either next month or the following month, just so that you all can meet them. But so our part-time people have, the one that is actually started has picked up a couple clients. So even with picking up clients, a couple of our staff have picked up a couple extra clients and our wait list is still pretty big. So it's, we're just seeing a much higher need and a lot more. We started doing some in-person work. So we're seeing a couple clients outside. I've been working with the school systems and going to some of the schools to do work there. So that's been really great that we've been able to start some of that in-person work. I think it makes a huge difference, especially for the younger population. It's hard to do play therapy over Zoom, right, Carolyn?
It's a new experience for sure. We're getting the hang of it. I think someone had said to me recently that there's all this anxiety that I think we anticipate in August and the beginning of September with like the start of the school year. But for a lot of kids, I had a middle schooler say like, it feels like it's the start of school again with the new restarting full time and who's going to be in my lunch and new schedules. So it's just like a little bit of an odd timing. I think when there's anxiety that we weren't expecting. With like everyone's feeling that, but it doesn't seem like everyone's feeling it. So there's been a lot of reiterating and reassuring that. But
in the increased numbers that you guys are seeing, do you see any patterns in terms of age group, like more like as a spread among elementary, middle, and high school age?
A lot more middle school and high school. Now that's often what we see the most anyway, but a lot, I would say mostly middle school and trickling into high school as well.
I would suspect also there's some buildup, right? Like those that were struggling before, like there's still a lot that's disruptive in our lives right now. And that hasn't gone away, right? So they need to have sort of continued services, plus sort of when you're getting whatever regular new ones you would, that it just compiles. Yep,
no, absolutely. One of the other things we've heard a lot too is that extracurricular activities still, like some of the sports are picking up slowly, but it's not the same. And that was a huge support to a lot of people. When they don't have that, I think the acuity level is much higher than I've seen before also. The level of the depression, the level of anxiety, it's not, I'm a little depressed. It's, I can't get out of bed. I can't focus. I'm not finding any enjoyment in activities I used to find. And so the struggle is just, we're dealing with much more acuity than we had in the past. And it's hard too, because, we don't have a psychiatrist on staff. And a lot of the outpatient providers, if you want psychiatry, you also have to get therapy there. So we found a couple of outpatient psychiatrists who are willing to work with us as well, but, and there's huge wait lists for psychiatry. So trying to just work with the clients we have to get them hooked up with medication assessments when needed has been a little bit of a struggle. And there's wait lists everywhere. For everything too, for therapy as well. So, you know, I've had a lot of people who I've talked to have said, I tried Interface, I've been working with them for weeks and nothing. And so I think that just everyone is bogged down.
I just saw something in the news that drug use was like spiking this year more than I think ever before.
Yeah.
That self-medication too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a huge piece. So, yeah, so that's our focus. We're trying to figure out just, you know, we're running a lot more groups, trying to just, you know, get to as many people as possible and get them, you know, as many services as possible. I've done a lot of, you know, crisis phone calls or consults or, hey, yeah, I'll do an assessment, meet with so-and-so for a couple times. And that's been helpful with just trying to connect them and get them supported. But we're definitely seeing that increased need.
Is there something the board can do in terms of advocating for a temporary extra position?
You know, I thought about that. Let me get back to you. I'm going to talk to Tim a little bit about it and see, but I don't think that that's a bad idea right now, just to get through. And when I presented to the finance committee, the narrative was kind of, if there's a need, let us know and we'll try to help support. And at the time, you know, we were hiring for those 2 part-time positions. So I was thinking that that might cover us, but now it's evident that it won't. So I think that I might go that route and try to request something more. So thank you, David, for bringing that up. Yeah, I'll let you know.
Hey, do you see any spike, you know, with the news, what's happening in Minneapolis, anything popping up? Do you see anything coming in with kids?
We haven't seen that specifically in regards to individual therapy, but in terms of just overall, you know, continued racial inequities and wanting to focus on that and clients being really upset about it, that's definitely come up. Carolyn, I don't know if you've seen other.
I
With your
think
friends?
that at any given time, depending on our individual caseloads, it can be very depending. Right now, I have quite a few middle school and high school students who pay particular attention to the news. So there's always a little bit of a trickle down effect when something big happens. It'll come up in conversation. It's not necessarily like the focus of what we're talking about. But, you know, a big part of counseling is providing a space to talk about whatever is on your mind. And for some students, that does involve, you know, some of the current events and tragedies that, you know, we're seeing. And, you know, we all know a lot about just being saturated by news in general. So it depends on the person and it depends on the caseload. Would you say, Sarah?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Are there other things besides the mental health needs that have popped up in the community that we should be aware of? I mean, I know we've heard mixed things about the high school going back full time, some people upset, some people not. You know, I think that's been a conversation since the beginning of this, but anything big
Just curious,
happening?
how is that going? I don't have a kid at the high school. I'm just wondering how that's going and how kids seem to be feeling about being back in person.
Well, we've kind of been in our hybrid state. None of us have gone full back in person. We haven't had the full classes yet. But I do think that it's definitely more of a kind of positive response than it was about 2 weeks ago. Remember, everybody was a little scared 2 weeks ago and everybody was a little jittery about it. But then I think a couple people, or actually, I would say a lot of people started getting vaccinated, especially in the senior class. So I think that kind of nervousness level is going down over time.
Yeah, I agree with the vaccine point. Like, I know that a lot of kids like in the junior class also who have jobs or are eligible have gotten the vaccine, and like including me, have been starting to feel a lot more comfortable about it. I think the teachers have also been doing a pretty good job of like kind of talking to us about it. Like they're relating to us. They're not just kind of like, well, you know what? Well, look, they're kind of like, oh yeah, I get it. It's gonna be a little scary. Or they also have a lot of my classes have already like put the chairs in, so like we'll see what it will be like after April break. And that's also nice because it like kind of gives us a little time to prepare ourselves mentally. And sorry, one other thing is that on Zoom on Wednesdays, some of my teachers have brought the two cohorts together, which they really weren't doing a lot over the year, and it was a little awkward, but I think it was nice. It was good seeing people, so I'm excited, but I think there's still a lot of mixed feelings.
That's great. It's good to hear that the teachers are being supportive and talking about it and preparing students, and that there's more of a positive response. It's good to hear it's slowly getting there.
Yeah, how many more weeks left of the school year after 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more weeks?
Probably about that.
Yeah, sounds about right.
All right. And also the sad news that Needham lost to Wellesley. Big event.
It's all just a kind of a, I know that's like it was a tiny point, but also I definitely feel a lot of people recently have been talking so much more about volleyball than they did last year. I know that's kind of it's like a weird thing because everybody had the volleyball mania last year, but recently there's been like a whole discrepancy about like why are they putting football in the news if they're not even a good team, and why aren't they putting volleyball in the news, which I find hilarious and I think is fantastic. Like it's great. And so there's been a lot of buzz about that recently, and that warms my heart, especially because they went undefeated this season.
That's awesome.
Once is a tradition.
Positive news is important too.
That's right. Okay, do you want to do update on programs, services, and awards?
Sure. Carolyn, you want to start?
Oh, how embarrassing. Still on mute. It's been like a year and a half. Well, the biggest thing right now for me is that we are doing like an April staycation town cleanup opportunity, which really came from a few of our volunteers did this over the summer. We thought this would be a good opportunity. We can open it up to students of any age. Basically, it's going to be some independent work where students are going to be given a timesheet and fill it out on the honor system. If people go for a walk in their neighborhood, and bring a little bag as they go and grab any trash or recyclables, and then have their parents sign off on the time that they spent. I'd be happy to sign off on their community service paperwork. When I looked at the end of the day earlier today, we have about 20 people already signed up. Every time I look at the Google form, it just keeps filling in. I got a really nice email this afternoon from a family who said, my daughter would really like to participate, but I don't know if it's a Needham only thing. She has friends in another town. Can they come? It's like, yeah, come on. Like, it's fine. It's on your own. But if you want to send me paperwork, great. I like to send a little letter out after, just like a, hey, thank you, and a certificate, and write down like you did 4 hours of community service. And I have quite a few students who it adds up as you start to do all these little projects. So that's fun. It gives people something to do if they're around for the April vacation. However, I've been getting a lot of emails of people already asking about volunteers around Needham for the summer. So right now I've been in talks with the Needham Community Farm. They're lovely. They're always so, so welcoming. So we have 2 days booked to go there, which will be great. We work pretty closely with Ed Olson, who is he's the superintendent, I believe, of Park and Forestry. And he loves to work with our volunteer students. He always picks a different park that needs a little love in town. And so we'll do some days, hopefully there. And then we're just waiting for additional approval from the health department that, we get the go ahead to work with some other local organizations that we have in the past. Once we get that nod of approval, we had started brainstorming about doing another car wash day at the fire station or the police station. I just heard from the Council on Aging program director, Aisha, she runs all the different activities. They're having a meeting about opening soon. And so she and I are going to coordinate in a couple weeks to see what might be feasible. The goal right now is to do smaller groups, smaller chunks of time, so it's more manageable social distancing wise. But the fact that so many people are already emailing me saying like, is this happening? We want to do it is encouraging. It's exciting to be planning an event to happen in person again. So that's good. And then I can't believe it. I saw Josh and was like, oh, I got to get ready to start reaching out to my seniors for peer tutor. Your 2T, and well, your 2T's mom loves you. They think you're the greatest, but I have to, reach out to my seniors, say thanks and bye. And then all of a sudden it's going to be recruiting for next year too. So there's just lots of stuff going on. Same thing for our VIP program, that's starting to wrap up, and then start thinking about recruiting. We're always kind of thinking about groups, things like that. And I don't know, it's exciting to start, thinking about what could we be doing in person again. So I think those are the big things right now, though. Would you say, Sarah?
Mm-hmm, definitely. And some of the other focuses, so we've taught a couple youth mental health first aid classes. That program that used to be an 8-hour class is now a 2-hour, do 2 hours on your own, and then 4 to 5 hours over Zoom or in person. So we've taught a couple classes that has been really successful. We have a couple more coming up. And we've been in talks with, so I meet with the schools on a every other week basis just to get a pulse of what's happening. And I think that they're also recognizing the increased mental health needs and how can they support teachers and, being trained in maybe youth mental health first aid. Maybe that's an option just because there are some teachers who might not have any experience addressing mental health concerns, and what is that going to look like and how is that recognized in the classroom as students start coming back. So that's definitely a partnership that, we can try to help support and see what that looks like. CCIT and YRN are meeting regularly. Was it last week? We had the longest YRN ever. So Youth Resource Network, it's where we get together with a bunch of community partners and talk about families in crisis. And we had a 2-hour meeting about just so many families in crisis. And again, I just think that speaks to the increased mental health need right now and struggles people are having. But I got to say, the schools and the community partners have just been so creative in finding ways to help support people. And, because there have been a couple cases that we presented that I was like, oh, I don't know what to do about this. Like, even I'm feeling a little bit defeated. And just the creativity in those meetings has been unbelievable. In the way that we've just been able to wrap services around to help these families has been great. So it just shows, I think, the commitment Needham has to these services. And then the other thing that we're trying to work on is potentially another mural project. So that's in the works. Hopefully that'll take off sometime soon now that the weather's nice. It's got to be like 50 something degrees for the paint to stick. So as long as that consistently stays above that for a bit, we're in good shape.
Also on the rail trail, Sarah, or a different location this time?
There's controversy. Some people want us to continue on the fence. Some
Yeah.
people want us to do other areas that are hard hit with graffiti. We talked about maybe the housing authority. So I have a couple options.
Got it.
Did Paula do their stay day today, this week?
Yes, it was today.
Okay. Stay is a terrible acronym. It's students taking action, not staying.
Right.
Ah,
Well, today they were staying at home.
right,
They were all
right.
home today.
Okay. Do you want to go into new old business?
Sure.
Okay.
So the only thing I had in that is last meeting or maybe 2 meetings ago, we talked about Children's Hospital and what we would encourage their focus to be. The Board of Health is going to be talking about it this week in their meetings. So I came up with a couple things that I think that our focus should be, but so I can kind of let you know what my thoughts are. And then if people want to give me other thoughts or changes. So the biggest needs I see is wraparound services around mental health that has family advocacy, case management support, resources, maybe some home-based services, transportation needs back and forth, more specialty mental health supports. So in my head, I'm thinking, there's a lot of kind of general practitioners in terms of mental health. I think our office is one of those, but it would be great to have, specific substance abuse, trauma, loss, all the things that are coming up because of the pandemic. Mental health services, they could take into consideration cultural considerations. So, I think all of us are trained in taking those things in consideration, but it would be great to have language capacity. I worked with an organization once that worked specifically with like the Haitian community and what mental health looks like in that community. So really specialties for these various cultures that would really help kind of engage them in understanding mental health and accessing mental health services and being able to support that piece of it. Potential trainings for community partners. So I was thinking, Children's Hospital has so many trainers and researchers, or would it be great if that they could train local providers in some of these specialty areas? So is there a lot of research that's going into how families are impacted by the pandemic? And, again, we can definitely treat the anxiety and the depression, but are there therapeutic techniques that really work best with what's happening right now? So maybe some kind of training for community providers, suicide prevention work, and how to support families whose lives have changed due to COVID. So, on the news, they talk about these long haulers who have like ongoing health needs and how that might be also impacting mental health. If they are one of those people that, their lung capacity is different and they can't run or can't access their social supports in the same way, how can children support that? So that was a brief list that I came up with. I didn't know if other people had other thoughts or changes to that.
I like that. That was great.
I really liked
Yeah.
the specialization aspect that you talked about it.
It sounds like a great list. Is there anything any more crisis intervention kind of thing that needs to happen, or is Riverside kind of fill that need?
It's interesting. I was actually in my head. So Riverside deals with acute crisis, determining level of care in the crisis. I actually feel like another need might be, where's the in between? So you have the crisis work, the outpatient work, various levels of care, but what about kind of like a little bit what we're doing, like seeing families 4 and 5 times just to get them over like a really difficult period, which might not meet the level of like crisis team, but kind of that in between.
Yeah.
I think Riverside is managing a lot of like those acute crises, and they also hired somebody to work with the Needham Police Department and the Dedham Police Department to do some of those calls with the police. So they do a dual response. So I think that's actually going really well. But I agree with you. I think kind of that median ground needs to be looked at. I can add that to the list.
Yeah.
Also, I love the cultural sort of perception part. Like, how do you manage? And not that Needham is, terribly heterogeneous, but there is some, and it's worth it, And when it matters, it matters.
Absolutely. And, like in the Haitian community, I think it's hard because, culturally, mental health is just there's a lot of cultures like that, but it's just looked at so differently. And so if somebody can provide like a parent partner or somebody with lived experience that can help, that's shares that cultural background that can really help them through it. I think that I've seen that to be the most successful. I think we're culturally competent, but can't, connect in the same way, I think, than people that come from the same culture. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And
at least-
like
yeah.
language capacity is huge too. I think, we've used translators, but, doing therapy through translation services isn't the best. And so that language capacity, I think, is huge too.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Anyone? Bueller? No? All right. Are we done?
Motion to adjourn?
No, we're not yet. Not yet. First,
Jump
I
in the
listened to
gun.
when Julia's not here, and we seem to fly through these meetings when she's not here.
When she's not here.
So we laid it at her feet. No, does anyone have anything else? No? Okay. All right.
Hey, I just want to say that you guys are doing a great job. This is such a hard time and you guys have been creative and pivoting. And so I just want to let you know how much I appreciate what you're doing. So,
Oh,
Yeah,
you,
thank
Susan.
you.
yay team.
Seconded.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you,
All right,
Susan,
David,
for
did you
bringing
want to, make a motion to?
I would like to
approve
make a
this?
motion that Susan just made.
Great. All right. All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
Second.
All right, then we are adjourned. So we'll see you all next month.
Thank you, Carol.